Everyone in the house, including my 5-year-old little brother, had taken cephalexin antibiotics. Yet on New Year's Eve, Dad uncapped a bottle of bootleg blended liquor. I warned him drinking alcohol with cephalexin could kill them all. Dad snapped that I was cursing the whole household on Lunar New Year, and kicked me hard, desperate to stop them. I poured the liquor into my little brother's chamber pot. Grandma saw what I'd done and slapped me so hard my vision swam. She said that bottle cost 150 yuan, a special New Year gift eldest uncle had given her. Mom and Dad flew into a rage over their ruined drinking plans, screaming that I was a wasteful brat before hurling me out into the courtyard. Blows rained down on me alongside a brutal snowstorm. My head split open and blood streamed down my face. But they still weren't satisfied. To prove cephalexin and alcohol weren't a deadly combo, they held me down and forced the chamber pot liquor down my throat with my little brother clapping and cheering them on. As the 12 chimes of the new year tolled, I drew my last breath. When I opened my eyes again, Dad was twisting open that same liquor bottle. I sipped dumpling soup quietly, watching Grandma dip a chopstick into the alcohol and dab a drop onto my brother's tongue. Fat white dumplings bubbled in the pot, and Mom smacked the back of my skull viciously. What are you daydreaming about? Scoop them out now. Can't even cook dumplings right. Useless trash. I snapped back to reality and glanced at the dinner table nearby. A bottle of liquor sat there, Dad running his hands tenderly over the glass like it was treasure. Mom stood behind me, scolding me while tearing open a strip of cephalexin tablets, popping the white pills out one by one. That's when I realized I'd been reborn. Holding back my thrumming excitement, I grabbed a skimmer, fished out the dumplings, and carried the bowl briskly to the table. The rest had already swallowed their antibiotics. I clutched the pill Mom had handed me, hurried back to the kitchen, and tossed it straight into the earthen stove fire. Mom craned her neck to shout, "Lin Xiaomai, take your medicine. What are you messing with now?" Grandma held my brother, tapping the table irritably. "Leave her be. Let her skip it if she wants. Worthless girl, if she dies of illness we'll save more rice and oil anyway." Truth be told, I barely got enough to eat as it was. Mom and Dad worked out of province with my brother most months, sending Grandma only 500 yuan monthly. Grandma secretly slipped 300 of that to eldest uncle, leaving just 200 to feed me and herself. Each morning I ate a tiny bowl of thin congee with fermented red bean curd, then headed to school with a corn cake and 2 slices of pickled mustard greens for lunch. When I got home in the evening, I often filled my stomach with watery cabbage soup, then scrubbed, swept, and ran every errand around the house. At 12 years old, I only weighed 8 kg more than my 5-year-old brother. Even with such meager portions, Grandma still grumbled I ate too much grain and oil, finding fault with me at every turn. I walked out of the kitchen clutching a head of garlic and a bottle of vinegar, forcing a smile to appease Mom. I took the medicine already. Mom, I just fetched garlic for Dad. Mom's face softened for once. Good girl. The doctor said your pneumonia needs a full course of pills. Your brother's only just recovering if you relapse and infect him. I'll beat you black and blue. Just then, Dad unscrewed the liquor bottle and set a small cup before my brother. It's New Year. Son, taste this fine wine. Grandma followed suit, dipping her chopstick in the liquor to dab another drop on my brother's lips. He choked on the burn, stuck his tongue out, then spat a mouthful of saliva straight onto my face. I said nothing, wiped my cheeks, and poured myself a bowl of dumpling soup. When I returned, Grandma and Mom had already drained their cups of alcohol. I licked my lips, feigning longing as I stared at my brother's full cup. Dad, can I have a tiny sip too? Predictably, my brother grabbed the cup and chugged it all down in one go. He coughed violently from the burn, then kicked me hard, mimicking Grandma's harsh tone. Brat, you're not worthy. Grandma piled a chunk of braised pork onto her precious grandson's plate, shooting me a disdainful look. Exactly. Look how shabby you look, you don't deserve expensive wine like this. I pressed my lips tight and gulped down my dumpling soup mouthful by mouthful, swallowing the bitter retort burning on my tongue. At least I won't end up dead like the lot of you. Done scolding me, Grandma turned to show off to Dad. This wine's a New Year gift from your eldest brother, 2 bottles total. Cost him 300 yuan. We'll drink one tonight for New Year's Eve. Save the second for the 8th day of the Lunar New Year before you head back to work. Dad's cheeks flushed red as he crunched through spare ribs, nodding eagerly. I thought coldly to myself, why nod? You won't live to see the 8th day. We had plenty of plain vegetable dumplings. Enough for everyone to eat their fill, but only 4 side dishes were laid out. Braised pork and fried meatballs sat right in front of Grandma and my brother. Sweet and sour spare ribs were placed by Dad's spot. The only cold cucumber salad was set between Mom and me. I ate quietly, picking only leek and egg dumplings, ignoring all the meat platters. My gaze fixed steadily on Dad as he drank. Mom pinched my arm sharply. Quit ogling Dad's liquor like a starving beggar. How old are you? Already craving rich food and drink? You live the easiest life in this whole house. My brother threw a tantrum, flailing his arms and wailing. Don't give the money-grubbing girl any wine. Don't give it to her. Grandma snatched him into her arms, then grabbed my ear and yanked me off my stool onto the floor. Bad luck, child. You had to make my grandson cry on New Year's Eve. I clutched my sore ear without a sound. Mom shot me a venomous glare, refilling Dad's glass while urging him on. Drink up fast. Don't savor it too long. Little Song won't stop crying, his pneumonia cough hasn't fully healed. Don't let him get worse from crying. Our wine cups were tiny. Dad rarely splurged on alcohol after a full year of grueling migrant work. And with Mom egging him on, he drained cup after cup in quick succession. Mom piled braised pork onto his plate, seeing Grandma still fussing over the crying boy. She turned back to berate me again. You're good for nothing. Always picking fights with your brother. Let me tell you, Dad bought a house for him in town. We won't have spare cash to send you to school after the new year. You'd better get that through your head. I didn't argue. Speaking meekly, Mom, I never wanted to go to school anyway. Take me with you when you leave, I can work. Nearly every child in our village was left behind. But few waited 2 or 3 years between seeing their parents like I did. Mom let out a scoff. Your twisted scheming stunting your growth. Factories don't hire child laborers. Dragging you along would only weigh the 3 of us down. In their eyes, my brother was their real child. They were a complete family of 3, and I was an outsider. No wonder in my past life, they'd beaten me half to death in a blizzard just for pouring out a bottle of wine I'd tried to save them from. They'd forced chamber pot liquor down my throat while screaming insults. Lin Xiaomai. A few years of village school and you think you know everything. Talking nonsense about antibiotics and alcohol killing people. Cursing us to die on New Year's Eve. Wasting expensive wine just to ruin our holiday mood. You say mixing cephalexin and alcohol kills instantly. Fine, let's test it tonight and see if you drop dead first. After shoving the liquor down my throat, they tossed me into the courtyard and shut themselves inside to watch the Spring Festival gala by the stove. Not a single one bothering to check on me. My head throbbed unbearably, my whole body burning hot, vomiting over and over. I crawled to the door like a stray dog, banging and begging for help. Yet no one stirred inside. When the New Year bells rang out, my agony ended. I died, my body buried under snow by dawn. The next morning, Mom couldn't push the gate open. She stared blankly at the snow pile for ages before realizing I lay beneath it. Instead of grief, Mom and Dad looked relieved. They comforted each other. Don't grieve too much. We didn't skimp on her 500 yuan a month. We spent plenty raising her. It's for the best. Xiaomai's gone. Now we don't have to worry about a daughter back home. Can focus fully on working to provide for our son. But how much money had they actually spent on me over the years? When had they ever truly cared for me? So why should I warn them about the fatal mix of cephalexin and alcohol this time around? This was their fate. I wouldn't throw away my own life trying to change it. Dad drank fast, finishing most of the bottle before his complexion turned sickly pale. Mom asked what was wrong. Dad waved it off. Nothing. This strong fine wine's just making me nauseous. Mom fretted. Feeling sick. Maybe go throw it up. Grandma slammed her chopsticks down hard. Waste good wine by vomiting it up. That's sacrilege. She snatched the bottle and hurried to her room to hide it safely. Minutes later, Mom and my brother also started feeling unwell. Mom vomited first. Once she finished retching, she saw my brother's face turning blue and gasping for air. Dad had already collapsed unconscious. Mom broke down screaming in terror. Grandma began dry heaving too, shouting for me, "Chow Mai. Run fast and get help." I nodded frantically, pulling on my cotton coat and rushing out the door. A blizzard raged just as it had in my past life. Snow stinging relentlessly. I trundled slowly to the village clinic, only to find the doctor had gone back to town for the holiday. Next I headed to eldest uncle's house, learning he'd left to celebrate with his wife's family. With no other options, I trudged back through deep snow to knock on a neighbor's door. Grandma had a terrible reputation in the village, stingy to a fault, always scheming to take advantage of others. The neighbor only opened up out of pity for my frostbitten, shivering frame. No one would have bothered otherwise. When we stepped into the yard, the front door hung ajar. Mom clung to the door frame, struggling to step outside for help after waiting too long for me to return. By the time the neighbor stepped inside, my brother was convulsing, and Dad lay unresponsive, having soiled his trousers. All four of them were barely clinging to life. No villager dared step forward to assist, afraid of bringing bad luck upon themselves on New Year's Eve. Eventually someone fetched the village chief, who arranged for a minivan to drive us to the town hospital. Snow blocked the roads badly. The usual 30-minute drive stretched to nearly an hour. The doctor caught the sharp stench of alcohol on their clothes and frowned. "Did you drink counterfeit liquor?" Grandma was sweating profusely, begging for water, struggling to argue. "It's not fake. My eldest son gifted it to me. 150 yuan a bottle, impossible, it's fake." The doctor sighed. "Fake or not, this is clear alcohol antibiotic poisoning. Start stomach pumping immediately." Dad was the worst off. Wheeled into the pumping room first. Then my brother vomited again. The doctor examined his mess, pulled on gloves, and picked out a small chunk of undigested pill. "What medicine is this?" Mom's face turned beet red, dropping her head in her hands. "Pneumonia pill, cephalexin." The doctor froze. "Such a small child took cephalexin, and you still gave him alcohol." His voice boomed loud enough for everyone to hear. Mom trembled. It was New Year's. "We just wanted a little festivity," the doctor pressed. "Did all of you take cephalexin?" Mom nodded. "The whole family had pneumonia." Disbelief clouded the doctor's face. Mom grabbed his sleeve desperately. "Doctor, is this poisoning from bad antibiotics? I'll sue the village clinic. Their medicine must be counterfeit." Ignoring her outburst, the doctor turned to me. "You look fine. You didn't drink any alcohol." I nodded. "The wine was too expensive. They wouldn't let me have a drop." "Count yourself incredibly lucky," he muttered, tossing his pen aside and yelling for nurses. "Cephalexin mixed with alcohol. Hurry. Administer emetics for these four." Mom kept sputtering about faulty medicine. The doctor snapped sharply. "If the pills were fake, you'd all be fine right now." They forced emetic syrup down Mom's throat. She hunched over a basin, retching violently. The chief rushed around helping, berating Mom for drinking after taking antibiotics. Mom stared blankly. "Can't you drink with cephalexin?" I think the village doctor mentioned it once, but none of us took it seriously. I'd never heard of anyone dying from it before. Just then, Dad was wheeled out of the pumping room, and my brother was pushed inside. Mom thought Dad had recovered, rushing over only to see his skin a sick blue-gray. The doctor said flatly, "We couldn't save him." He hurried back to resuscitate my brother. By the time my brother emerged from pumping, Mom and Grandma had both collapsed, overcome by poison and grief alike. The doctor fought to stabilize them for hours, finally saving Grandma, Mom, and my brother with 4 drips. As soon as fluids were set up, Grandma insisted on heading home. First, she hated wasting hospital fees. Second, a funeral for Dad needed organizing back at the house. Once home, Grandma directed everyone to build a mourning awning in the yard. She spotted the unopened bottle of liquor sitting inside, wiping tears from her eyes. "We planned to drink this on the 8th day. My poor second son never got the chance. She fetched a large glass jar, poured the unopened liquor inside, tossed in a handful of wolfberries and random wild herbs she'd airdried in the storage shed for years, treasuring them as medicinal ingredients, sealing the jar tight. Grandma stuffed the half-empty bottle Dad had left into my cotton jacket pocket. For once, she acted generous. Keep this leftover wine. It'll warm everyone up during the all-night vigil tonight, even if it's what your father drank. It's good liqueur, no one's allowed to turn their nose up at it. And don't forget to tell all your uncles and cousins. Never drink alcohol after taking cephalexin. They're the breadwinners for their families. We can't be responsible if someone loses their life. In Grandma's eyes, only men's lives mattered. Mid-sentence, eldest uncle's voice echoed in the yard. He'd fought through the blizzard after hearing news of Dad's death. Grandma rushed into his arms sobbing, then spun around, grabbing Mum's hair and slapping her wildly. Bringer of misfortune. You ruined our new year completely. The doctor said no alcohol with antibiotics. Yet you kept pouring drinks for him. Did you want my son dead? With eldest uncle present, Mum dared not fight back. Only stammer excuses. Mum, I didn't mean it. I took the pills and drank too. I got poisoned as well. Villagers stepped in to pull them apart. Mum scrambled to her feet, turned, and slapped me twice across the face. Lin Xiaomai, you came with me to buy the cephalexin. You heard the warning. Why didn't you stop your father from drinking at dinner? She pulled my weak, sickly brother into her arms, pointing at me as she spoke to him. Little Song, your father's gonna no more money coming in. No one to buy you Ultraman toys. We might have to sell the townhouse now. Terrified Grandma and eldest uncle would blame her fully. Mum dumped all fault onto me, enraged by her lies. Little Song, swaddled in white mourning cloth, charged at me like a squirming piglet. Before he could touch me, he crumpled to the ground unconscious. Eldest uncle swept him up and carried him inside. Touching his forehead revealed a raging fever. Mum wailed like a slaughtered pig until eldest aunt dragged her roughly outside. Eldest uncle searched Grandma's room for fever medicine, ready to run home to fetch some. But Grandma stopped him. No more pills, can't risk random medicine now. Your brother died from mixing cephalexin and alcohol. And Little Song's our Lin family's only grandson. We can't lose him too. Eldest uncle nodded rapidly. Right. Antibiotics killed Dad, no more reckless medicine. As if blaming the pills erased any guilt over his counterfeit liquor gift. Grandma had planned to call a spirit medium to cast out evil spirits plaguing my brother. Until she spotted the leftover liquor bottle peeking out of my jacket pocket. She waved me over. No fever medicine needed. This wine will work. Rub it into his skin. And if it doesn't break the fever, we'll fetch the medium later. I handed the bottle over obediently. I said nothing to warn her that external alcohol rubs were just as dangerous after antibiotics as drinking it. Besides, this fine wine was never genuine in the first place. I drunk a whole chamber pot's worth in my past life and knew full well eldest uncle had bought cheap industrial alcohol blend to fool Grandma. If not for that toxic bootleg liquor, I might have had enough strength to crawl to a neighbor's house and save myself back then. Grandma stripped my brother's clothes, and together with eldest uncle, they rubbed liquor all over his body 3 times over. They laid him on the heated brick bed, piling 2 thick quilts over him to sweat out the fever. Grandma sent the rest of us outside, claiming a heavy sweat would break his temperature. I knelt beside Dad's coffin in the courtyard for what felt like hours. Suddenly, Grandma's shrill scream tore through the house. Someone come quick. What's wrong with my grandson? I ran inside with the other adults to find my brother lifeless. His fever had broken, but his body was ice cold. Villagers shook their heads sadly, assuming the antibiotic alcohol poison hadn't fully flushed from his system at the hospital. No one realized Grandma's liquor rubs had finished killing him. Soon a tiny child's coffin joined Dad's larger one in the yard. Mom lost her husband and son in one single day, fainting dead away on the spot. When she woke, she sat motionless, her eyes fixed hollowly on the 2 coffins. Grandma and eldest uncle told arriving mourners Mom had lost her mind from grief. Then, without warning, Mom shot straight to her feet, scaring Grandma so badly she toppled to the floor. Mom sprinted to her bedroom, rummaging frantically through her backpack before tucking a thick booklet into her chest. Eldest uncle pulled Grandma aside to whisper the second he saw this. "Mom, once the funerals are done, chase her and the girl out fast. Otherwise she'll seize the townhouse your second brother bought. Everything's Lin family property. We can't let an outsider take it. Your old fighting her over assets will make us look terrible to the village. Don't forget I'm your biological eldest son. Any money we recover I'll spoil you with. If it stays with Xiaomai's mom, she'll remarry and take it all away." He'd instantly guessed the booklet Mom hid was the townhouse deed. I stood silently in a shadowed corner. 4 years. Eldest uncle had siphoned 300 yuan monthly from Grandma's support money meant for me. Now he coveted Dad's house too. Even my death and my past life traced partly back to eldest uncle's greed. If he'd gifted genuine wine instead of toxic industrial swill, I might have dragged myself to safety. Since he was insatiably greedy, none of them would escape consequences this lifetime. Grandma's whole world revolved around eldest uncle and my brother. Now her grandson was gone, and eldest uncle's manipulative words left her adrift. "Son, will that work? I've heard talk of inheritance laws from village legal lectures lately. Lawsuits happen all the time now. Villagers often chatted about legal cases in farm fields and after meals. So Grandma had picked up half-baked knowledge of rights. Eldest uncle's brows twitched, forcing out a reluctant plan. "We can formally adopt Xiaomai to live with me. I'll raise her." Grandma stared in shock. "Are you insane? That girl's a bad luck charm. She cursed her father and brother to death. What good would raising her do you? Only paperwork changes guardianship. She'll still stay living with you. No bad luck will touch me," eldest uncle blurted. Catching his own slip-up, he grabbed Grandma's hands to smooth things over. "You don't understand. Xiaomai's my second brother's only blood heir. By law, everything he owns belongs to her first. We just need to secure the house and savings first. Once she turns 18 we can marry her off and collect a bride price." Worry clouded Grandma's face. "What if Xiaomai's mom refuses? You tried adopting Little Song before and she blocked it completely." Eldest uncle and aunt had no children of their own, and had begged Mom and Dad to give them my brother as their heir for years, arguing they could have another boy themselves. Mom and Dad always refused. Once they'd offered to send me instead, and eldest uncle had flown into a rage, yelling at Dad, "Do you take me for a fool? Hand over a daughter to me. Raising a girl wastes food and money. She'll marry off someday and never care for me in old age. I'd rather raise a pig than your daughter." Yet now I was suddenly more valuable than a pig to him. When he heard Mom would likely reject the adoption scheme, a vicious glint flashed in his eyes. I shuddered. I knew Mom hated me, her whole heart belonging to my brother. But now that my brother was dead, she was still my birth mother. Staying with her had to be better than falling into eldest uncle's clutches. Resolved, I went to find Mom. When I stepped into her room, she sat silent. No tears or screaming, only crackling firewood breaking the quiet. But the second she saw me, her eyes blazed, and she lunged to scratch and beat me. "Why didn't you die instead? You're the one who was supposed to die young. Why did my husband and son take the disaster meant for you?" I strained to break free, raking my nails hard across her neck, leaving 5 clear bloody gashes. My whole body shook from adrenaline after fighting back. Mom touched the blood on her skin, ready to wail at the top of her lungs until I spoke in a cold, hollow tone. "You're going to die soon too," draped in rough mourning sackcloth, stick-thin and gaunt. I loomed over her until she clamped her cries shut in terror. I pressed on. "Dad's dead. Little Song's dead. The second you're gone, every valuable thing in this house falls straight to eldest uncle." Mom finally grasped the plot. "You mean your uncle plans to kill me? But murder's illegal, knows that, doesn't he? Murder breaks the law, but suicide does not. Your husband and son are already buried. If you die now, 9 out of 10 villagers will assume you hanged yourself from grief." Mom stumbled backward in fright, then clutched my sleeve tight, terrified I'd be taken from her. "Xiaomai, you're all I have left now. We'll rely only on each other from here on out. I promise I'll treat you well. I'll sign the house over to you. Save me." This was the very first time Mom had ever promised to be kind to me. I didn't fully believe her, but I nodded anyway. Mom, answer one thing first. What killed Dad? Mom looked confused. Mixing cephalexin and alcohol, wasn't it? We bought the antibiotics together, but where did the wine come from? Who brought it? Who knows if it was tainted? Realization dawned on her face. You think eldest uncle's liquor was bad. You want me to report him to the police. I nodded. Leave for town tonight to file a report. Demand an autopsy for Dad's body. If you don't, you'll end up buried beside him soon enough. Fear for her own life pushed Mum past grief for Dad and my brother. She pulled on her thickest coat, stuffed 2 steamed buns in her pocket, and slipped out of the village under cover of night. By the next morning, no one could find Mum anywhere. Eldest uncle and aunt secretly celebrated, while Grandma raged nonstop by Dad's coffin. Heartless woman. Her husband's not even buried and she ran off with some lover. How could she be so impatient? A villager grew suspicious and warned eldest uncle. Her husband and son just dropped dead and she vanished overnight. Could she have hurt them? Should we call police? Eldest uncle sat at the funeral feast table, tearing apart a roasted chicken leg and shaking his head dismissively. Don't think the worst of her. She's a widow now. We Lin family can't trap her here forever. Let her go, as long as my brother can be laid to rest properly. I stood by, tears freezing to my cheeks, shuffling slowly to eldest uncle's side to pour myself a cup of hot water for warmth. Uncle, I've no father, mother, or brother left. You and aunt are my closest family now. Can Grandma and I move in with you to eat and live from now on? Just yesterday he'd plotted to take guardianship to steal our assets. His face darkened instantly. He tossed chicken bones out for the dogs, picking his teeth. You and Grandma live fine on your own. My house is cramped. No need to crowd together. I'll send food over sometimes. You won't starve. I sneered inwardly. Thanks to him, I'd never eaten my fill even when Dad was alive. Now that Dad was gone, he'd never lift a finger to feed me. With Dad dead and Mom on the run, eldest uncle assumed our house and savings were his for the taking. Guardianship of me no longer held appeal. I said no more. Neighbors murmured to each other, shaking their heads at how cold-hearted eldest uncle was. Clearly unconcerned if I starved. Grandma screamed curses for hours, ranting about Mum's entire maternal family until her throat went hoarse and she nearly collapsed from exhaustion. As dusk fell, Grandma's rage faded and she trundled off to her bedroom to rest. Fresh steaming pork and vermicelli stew was brought out for the funeral feast tables. Suddenly headlights cut through the dark village road. Mum had returned, flanked by police officers. Officers planned to take Dad and my brother's bodies for autopsy, but eldest uncle blocked their path, begging for leniency. The graves had been dug through 3 days of backbreaking labor in frozen soil for a burial the next morning. He offered them cigarettes. It's freezing cold out. Cut us some slack so we can bury them tomorrow. The officers refused his cigarette. This is an official investigation. OX. Tie-ons. Eldest uncle grew defiant. The deceased are my brother and nephew. I'm head of the household now. You can't take their bodies away. The officers stayed calm. The victim's wife filed an official report. We are legally required to perform autopsies to determine exact cause of death. Grandma threw herself in front of the officers, blocking their way, wailing that cutting open the corpses would ruin their reincarnation. They'd be reborn crippled, unable to enter the afterlife whole. But they could not resist police authority. Within 30 minutes, they bowed respectfully to Dad's coffin and carried the bodies to their vehicle. Officers asked Grandma for the liquor eldest uncle had gifted her to test for toxins. Grandma pointed to the large glass jar someone had carried out of her room. The little bit your second brother drank was used to rub my grandson's skin. This is the unopened bottle. I steeped herbs and wolfberries into warm vigil guests. One officer lifted the jar to inspect it, then spoke sharply. This liquor cannot be consumed. It contains monkshood, a deadly poison. Thankfully no mourners had sipped from it yet. Everyone paled in terror at the news. After confirming no one had drunk the herbal liquor, the officers prepared to leave, warning eldest uncle he could not leave the village and must remain available for questioning at any time. Once the police car drove off, villagers swarmed Grandma to ask why she'd brewed toxic tonic wine. Grandma stared dazedly. How could it be poisonous? I picked those wild plants on the mountains for medicine. Herbs heal sickness. How can they kill? Disheartened and spooked, villagers abandoned the funeral feast and hurried home to salvage what remained of their ruined New Year's celebrations, leaving the yard eerily empty. Grandma broke down crying again, grabbing a broom to beat Mum, her hoarse voice squawking insults. Wretched woman. You ran off and dared come back dragging police with you. Now your husband and son can't be buried whole, and you've turned the whole village against us. What did you tell the officers? Why order your eldest son confined to the village? Your husband died because of you, and that wicked girl. What's this got to do with your eldest brother? Seeing eldest uncle glowering murderously beside her, Mum quickly threw all blame onto me. It was Xiaomai. She said the wine was tainted. Claimed her uncle planned to kill Mesh, forced me to file the police report. Eldest uncle lunged to kick me, but I shouted sharply to stop him. Don't touch me. You're a prime suspect now. If anything happens to me, your sentence will stretch another 8 to 10 years minimum. My threat froze both eldest uncle and grandma in place. Uncle's head drooped nearly to his chest in fear, with Dad and my brother's bodies taken for testing. The morning awning and feast tables were dismantled that night. Mum feared eldest uncle would murder her in her sleep, so she squeezed onto my tiny brick bed to share covers. Neither of us spoke a word through the long night. I dozed fitfully until dawn, when police returned bearing autopsy results for Dad and my brother. Their poisoning stemmed from 2 sources: the fatal cephalexin alcohol reaction, plus toxic industrial alcohol in the liquor. My brother could have survived hospital treatment, but Grandma's repeated liquor skin rubs, paired with sweltering heat under 2 thick quilts on the brick bed, finished him off for good. Grandma collapsed onto the floor wailing, beating her chest and screaming she'd killed her precious grandson, yet she never uttered a word blaming eldest uncle's fake liquor gift. Police arrested eldest uncle soon after. He confessed quickly under questioning. He'd never intended to buy toxic bootleg liquor at first, until Grandma told him shortly before New Year's, "Your second brother's money's tight lately. He can only send me 200 yuan a month now, so I can't slip extra cash to you anymore." Eldest uncle had grown used to siphoning 300 yuan monthly for years. Losing that income stung like a knife wound. In a fit of petty rage, he bought cheap industrial alcohol blend as a New Year gift for Grandma. He claimed he'd only meant to fool Grandma, certain she'd never drink the liquor herself. But I knew there was far more malice to his plan. Right after Grandma told him she could no longer subsidize him, eldest uncle had questioned me once. "Xiaomai, did you sneak and tell your mum Grandma's been sending me money? Is that why she cut the support funds?" I'd shaken my head. "Uncle, I never said a word. Dad couldn't afford the full 500 because he's saving to buy Little Song a townhouse." Eldest uncle's hands had trembled violently. "Your father bought a townhouse." His expression had twisted as if someone had stolen property that rightfully belonged to him. I recounted this entire exchange to police, plus his years-long attempts to adopt my brother as his heir. Officers reopened eldest uncle's interrogation, and he finally spilled his full scheme. He seethed with jealousy that Dad had a son in a townhouse. Knowing his liquor would inevitably end up in Dad's cup, he'd purchased 2 bottles of toxic industrial alcohol, planning to slowly ruin Dad's health. Once Dad weakened, he'd pressure him to hand my brother over for adoption, then slowly seize full control of our family's house and assets. He'd never anticipated Dad taking cephalexin at the same time, or the blizzard delaying emergency care enough to kill Dad instantly. Eldest uncle's court verdict came quickly: 8 years imprisonment. The day the sentence notice arrived, eldest aunt sold their family home, took all savings, and fled back to her birth family's village. Our once large family shattered completely, leaving only Grandma, Mum, and me. Grandma forbade Mum from returning to migrant work out of province. She sold our old village cottage, and the 3 of us moved into Dad's townhouse together. I knew Grandma hated both Mum and me fiercely. She couldn't wrap her head around why we'd handed eldest uncle over to police after Dad and my brother's deaths. She wanted us all to suffer alongside her in misery. I went back to school. Mom found home-based handcraft work in town, and Grandma hovered over her every hour to make sure she never snuck out to meet other men. Somewhere along the line, Grandma's treatment of me shifted strangely for the better. She adjusted our meals carefully each day. I got fresh milk and a boiled egg for breakfast, while she and Mum drank thin congee with fermented bean curd. Lunch always had one small meat plate and a large vegetable platter plus pickles. I ate the full meat portion and half the vegetables. Only then would Grandma and Mum split what remained. At first I suspected Grandma was poisoning my food, so I ate cautiously for weeks. After years of near starvation, my body easily endured skimpy meals if needed. Mum's handcraft earnings barely covered the house mortgage. Nearly all daily living costs came from Grandma's savings from selling the village house. But the old cottage had been run down and worth only 5,000 yuan. This money wouldn't last long at our spending rate. I later discovered Grandma snuck out daily to collect cardboard waste to sell for pocket change. For a fleeting second, my heart softened with gratitude. That warmth vanished instantly when I overheard her chatting with other elderly village women one afternoon. Grandma said flatly, "I don't love my granddaughter at all. I miss my grandson so badly it tears me apart. Watching her eat and drink is like imagining little Song eating the food. Instead it eases the pain a little. If you ask me straight, I can't stand the sight of her." From that moment on, my heart hardened completely. No flicker of softness left for her. I also realized she'd never poison me now. She only viewed me as a substitute for little Song. Even if her kindness was hollow and rooted in grief for my brother. I grew taller, put on healthy weight, and my skin cleared up under her steady feeding. I buried myself in studying, rarely dwelling on family drama, so my grades stayed top of the class. Grandma would stroke my certificates for ages whenever I brought them home, sometimes muttering, "If little Song were alive, his grades would outshine yours easily." In her mind, my brother would always be superior. When little Song was alive, round and plump as a pig, Grandma called him handsome while mocking me for being scrawny as a monkey. Every time she mentioned little Song, Grandma would cry, then point to Mum's hunched working back and speak to me. "I've not wanted to live for a long time, but I have to stay to watch your Mum pay off this house mortgage. My grandson's gone. I can't let you inherit a mountain of debt so young. Shall my? Promise me you'll protect this house no matter what." I'd smile and hug her, telling her she was the best grandma alive. After cremating Grandma, we carried her ashes back to the village burial grounds. Eldest uncle's fresh grave sat right beside Dad's plot, dug by village volunteers. A tiny earthen mound marked my brother Little Song's resting spot next to Dad. It brought back memories of my past life's end. When I died, Grandma had ruled underage children couldn't be buried in the family ancestral plot, and refusing to pay for cremation. They dumped my body deep in a mountain ravine instead. Yet Little Song, equally underage, received a proper marked grave. Rules were always written flexibly to favor the males of the family. I arranged for Grandma's ashes to be buried beside Grandfather's old grave, knelt, and kowtowed 3 times in respect. I hiked straight back to the county after the burial, while Mom returned alone to the townhouse. She'd wasted away to skin and bone, her footsteps light as if floating on air. A terrible premonition twisted in my gut, and it came true during the May Day holiday. When Mom called me at school, her voice barely audible through racking coughs. "Xiao Mai, I've got pneumonia. Come home and look after me for a few days." I told her I couldn't skip classes with the college entrance exam fast approaching. She fell silent a moment, then whispered brokenly, "Just come see me once. I might not have much time left." My heart clenched, not out of love for her, but from recognizing the raw despair in her tone, identical to the hopelessness I'd felt moments before dying in my past life. After long hesitation, I asked my teacher for leave. The teacher urged me to hurry back quickly, pressing several boxes of Huxiang Jingqi oral liquid into my school bag. "Lots of people have stomach bugs and colds lately. Drink this immediately if you feel unwell yourself." I arrived home late at night to find Mom lying in bed. Shockingly, boxes of cephalosporin and cough medicine sat on her pillow. She'd wasted away further. Nothing but skin stretched tight over bones. I poured her a glass of water and asked, "Why are you taking medicine now?" Mom's voice scraped raw and hoarse. "The sickness is too severe. I can't survive without pills." I set my bag on the living room table and stepped into the bathroom to wash up. When I returned, Mom stood in the living room, a stack of papers laid out before her. "Xiao Mai, Sign this transfer agreement and hand the townhouse over to me. After Dad's death, Grandma had forced Mom to legally transfer the house deed into my name. Now that Grandma was gone, Mom planned to seize the property back for herself. She'd lied about wanting a final goodbye. She only wanted to steal the house and live comfortably alone. I stood my ground. Mom, remember what you said the night I sent you to report eldest uncle for plotting to kill you? After Dad died. Back then she begged tearfully, Xiao Mai, you're all I have left. We'll rely solely on each other from now on. I swear I'll treat you well. I'll sign the house over to you, just save my life. Now the danger had passed. She planned to renege entirely. Mom waved off my reminder impatiently. Forget old talk. I fed you, clothed you, paid for your schooling for years. I've repaid all maternal obligations already. Besides, your warning about your uncle killing me was only your word against his. You might have lied to stir trouble. Every last one of your Lin family's rotten to the core. She coughed hollowly, chest rattling. Refuse to sign and you'll never go back to school. You can kiss the college entrance exam goodbye. She locked the front door from inside and hid the key. The building had 5 floors with security bars on every window. Even without bars, jumping down was suicide. I only owned a basic feature phone that could make calls but no internet, and Mom had snatched it while I washed up. Mom burst into bitter sobs, ranting about all her perceived hardships. This is all your fault. You let your father and brother drink that liquor and killed them. You pushed me to call police, turning Grandma against me and torturing me for years. My whole life's ruined because of you. I slaved away to buy a house only for it to end up registered in your name. What right do you have to everything? She explained she'd avoided medicine for this pneumonia at first, until a near-coma fever broke her fear of pills. Death's just an option now. Taking cephalexin might let me recover. I won't let you inherit everything for nothing. She glared at me like a mortal enemy. Ungrateful brat. You knew Grandma sent eldest uncle 300 yuan monthly all those years and never told your parents. She'd known everything all along. How Grandma and I scraped by on 200 yuan a month. My meals of congee and fermented curd. Why, I'd never grown properly tall. Yet she'd never confronted eldest uncle over the stolen support money. She'd only cut corners on my food, threatening to pull me out of school once savings ran low. Lin Xiaomai, don't stare at me like that. I've been more than generous as a mother. I never married you off young to a stranger. I sent you to school. You ought to be endlessly thankful. She rambled on and on to herself non-stop. Her whining gave me a splitting headache, churning my stomach until I sprinted to the bathroom to vomit, then suffered bouts of diarrhea afterward. I touched my forehead and realized I'd spiked a slight fever too. I pulled Huxiang Jinqi liquid from my school bag and drank a dose, then tore up the property transfer agreement and locked myself inside the small spare bedroom to rest. After a full night's sleep, I felt vastly recovered. I started preparing food the next morning at 2 in the afternoon, reaching for the spare bedroom door handle only to find it blocked shut. I pushed hard. Mum lay collapsed on the floor outside my door. Hands clawed against the wood as if she'd been banging to reach me. She was already dead. I'd worn noise-canceling headphones listening to English audio lessons all night and never heard her knocks. I froze for a long moment. The scene mirrored my own death. Trapped alone outside a locked door in the snow years before. Stepping carefully over her body, I spotted my 2 boxes of Huxiang Jinqi liquid tampered with on the living room table. She'd watched me recover fast after drinking the herbal oral liquid and chugged double doses herself in desperation. But she'd taken cephalexin antibiotics beforehand. Mixing cephalexin with Huxiang key liquid which contains alcohol is fatal. She'd escaped death by liquor once, yet walked straight into this identical deadly trap in the end. I held a simple, quiet funeral for Mom before returning to school to study. I aced the college entrance exam far above my usual grades, earning admission to a top-tier double first-class university, the first student from our county's high school to achieve this feat. Local media ran front-page stories about my tragic orphaned background, and countless townsfolk cried reading my story. Donations poured in from across the province. Yet I never spent a cent of that charity money on myself. With government assistance, I founded a foundation for left-behind rural children, depositing every donated yuan into its funds. I believed with the foundation's support, more young girls like me could escape mountain poverty and build bright, independent futures of their own.